Let me wish you all a Trails and Hanukkah.
Okay, you too.
Then let me say thank you to everyone. First, let me thank Rabbanu Shalom. It was 1 year ago, and it was impossible to even dream of something like this, that we could give this kavod to our Morad Astra, Harav, Mordechai Shraga Feigl, Rav Shmuel Shapsa, Halevi Zatzal, Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld Zatzal. I want to thank, many years ago, Rabbi Schonfeld referred to himself as a ro'eh tzon. A ro'eh tzon is a shepherd of a flock. And borrowing a phrase from Pashas Vayetze, when Yaakov Avinu, who was a shepherd, refers to him, first speaks to Lavan and tells him what he did as a shepherd. And he said, "Vatitash nosi me'enai." Translated freely means, I didn't sleep. I worked so hard for you. And that was our rabbi. He worked 24/7 for all of us. And perhaps that's the reason why the most common phrase that I heard this past year from those who signed up to learn Mishnayos for the rabbi, for those who are here today, and those who are on Zoom, the most common phrase was, I just have to be here. I have to learn, even though I don't normally open up a Mishnayos, I have to do it to show Hakoras Hatov. I owe the rabbi so much. And so I want to thank you all for this Chesed Shel Emes. Everyone is here tonight doing something we just didn't think possible again a year ago. There are a few people who are very responsible for this siyum, and I'd like to thank them personally. Number one, our Rabbi Yoel Schonfeld. He put his heart and soul and Mesiras Nefesh into making this siyum tonight, and it's hopefully, and I know it will be, a tremendous kavod to his father, what he did. Thank you, Rabbi. I also would like to thank our president, Stuart Verstandig. He also is involved with everything in this shul. We are very fortunate to have him for these past 2 years in these difficult times. Thank you. I'd like to thank our office staff, Leslie and Judy. They worked hard on making many of the arrangements and doing things for us. Thank you both. They're here. Rebecca Whitted, couldn't do this without her. She's just incredible. Thank you, Rebecca. She went out, she brought our, thanks to the Women's League also, who gave us our dessert for tonight, our Hanukkah type dessert. Thank you both, Rebecca. Morty Goldstein couldn't be here tonight. Something came out at the last minute, but it was his idea to show video of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld Zatzal, which we will do afterwards. Taking his place, Penny Verstandig agreed to step in and gave up of his own time something he has personal to do tonight, which was more than, I just don't know how to thank Penny. Penny is just really special, and everything we're very fortunate to have. Thank you. Last but not least, my colleague in crime, so to speak, David Englander. Rumor has it that David's in Florida, but the truth of the matter is, if I didn't know better, I think he's standing alongside of me. He just simply knows everything that's going on in this shul and being in Florida. Thank you, David. And now I would like to call on our president, Stuart Verstandig, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Dr. Levinson. for your kind words and for all of your hard work for planning this most successful deserved evening. Rabbi Yoel Schonfeld family members, distinguished rabbis, and friends. Tonight, we gather to observe the first Yartzeit of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld, Harav Mordechai Shrago Feivel Ben Shmuel Shapsi Halevi, our founding Rav, the builder of the Queens Jewish community, and a rabbi's rabbi. Rabbi Schonfeld did not seek kavod, but he received kavod and respect from all who knew him. He was a devoted Rav in his community and to Am Yisrael. Thank you to all those present in person and by Zoom this evening. We thank Dr. David Levenstein for coordinating the Mishnayos Seder Moed Learning Group and the weekly Mishnayos Shir, and for tonight's Siyum program and Seudah. Tonight's program was made possible with the assistance of Rebecca Woodard, Morty Goldstein, and Penny Verstendig, whom we extend our appreciation and gratitude. We thank 58 individuals that participated in the Mishnayos learning in memory of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld Zatzal, and we thank Rabbi Yoel Schonfeld for giving the weekly Mishnayos Shir. May the memory of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld be an inspiration for all of us. Tonight, I'd like to announce the creation of the Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld Adult Education Center in his memory, and the first lecture will take place, presentation by Dr. Schneer Lyman at the upcoming Hanukkah Oneg next week. And it will also host other special learning programs during during the course of the year. The Memorial Tribute book, which Rebecca Witter has been coordinating, is at the printer. As soon as it arrives, those of you that were sponsors will get a copy. Those of you that are interested in purchasing, there'll be copies available for purchase. One last announcement. I'd like to ask Rabbi Yoel Schonfeld to please come forward. I'd like to, on behalf of the Young Israel of Chew Garden Hills, to present to you this loose leaf, which consists of many articles that were written in memory of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld, pictures and interviews, which was coordinated by Rebecca Witter. This is for you and your family.
Unbelievable job that you guys have done, and I know it's a labor of love, and it was a great labor. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming this evening. Before the rabbi makes the siyum, the hadran, he said to me, I don't need an introduction, really. And I said to him that, the biggest kavod to your father is to give kavod to his children. And that's what Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld would say without a word. And so I'd like to introduce him with a little story that I had heard from Rabbi Schonfeld, Fabian Schonfeld, Zatzal, a number of years ago. And this story, powerful story, it relates to Jewish history, to Hanukkah, and to why we're here tonight also. Rabbi said that a man was during the Inquisition, and a man was brought in chains before the king and queen of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella. And the king said to him, all you have to do to save your life is bow down to our Lord. And the man said, the chain prevents me. King said, it's not such a tight chain, you could bow down. And again, the man said, the chain prevents me. Finally, the king said, guards, take those chains off this man. Then he said again to the man, bow down. And once again, the man said, the chain prevents me. And the king said, what chain? There are no chains on you. And he said, the chain of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Our rabbi, Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld Zatzal, formed his own chain. In this week's Parsha, we see that Yosef is given a Ravid Hazav, a golden chain, and our rabbi formed his own golden chain. From both of his Israel and all more than, what could I say, served him, paid him back, gave him the greatest cover possible in the last few years, certainly. There were a golden link, a link of all gold. And with that, I want to introduce our own golden link, Rabbi Yoel Schonfeld.
Who's Alan and Jackie?
Wish
Who's
I
Alan and Jackie?
could. That's doing. But
You can move the arrow to see who's on.
I'm very overwhelmed.
I want to see Jonah's picture. It's all these.
Okay, I'm going to make. That's
Paul Brody.
here. Simcha, I think we have to mute everybody again. So sorry, have to mute everybody because there are people who must have got on later and are not muted.
I can always never hear him on the microphone.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're not the host.
He's trying to fix him again. Not many people here.
I am.
Usually there's a count at the bottom.
Yeah. 57.
Not so many. Rick Schindelman. Ach, ich schon.
Rahi.
In
Jonah.
the background. we can hear him. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you hear me because everybody's muted and I'm not. I hope that's working. Is it working? Yeah. Okay. So if this siyum is on Seder Moed, entire Seder Moed of the Mishnayos. So I'll make the siyum and then I'll call upon our next speaker. And this is the last leg of Mishnayos Chagiga. Mishnayos Chagiga started off pretty innocently. It's most about the Yontif and the Karbanos of Yontif, covering Chagiga, Riyah, Shalomim. You know, it's almost an easy read. But at the end, it proved to be challenging. It's all about Tum and Tahara. I'll take just the last two sentences of the very last Mishnah, which is in Chagiga Perek Gimel, Mishnah Hay. Mishnah Ches, sorry. All the kelim that were in the Beis Hamikdash had to go under a Tefillah Tahara process in order to get set for the Yom Tovim. We assume here and there somebody who was not in the state of Tahara may have touched any one of the kelim Beis Hamikdash, according to some of the menorah, shulchan, anything that was of use in the Beis Hamikdash had to be tavel. Chutz mizbech hazahav, mizbech hanechoshes, except for the golden was gold plated, the golden mizbech, which was in the altar, was in the Heichal HaKodesh, Mizbeach HaNechoshes, that was the copper-plated one that was used on a daily basis outside within the Makom HaMikdash. Now, why don't they have to undergo the Tahara process? With Neshaim the Karka, they are considered as though they are planted in the ground. The Mizbeach HaNechoshes was actually filled with earth, and both Mizbeach, I guess it's Mizbeachim, have an halacha as though they're planted in the ground. Anything planted in the ground never has to go under a Tahara process. Neither Rabbi Eliezer, that's Rabbi Eliezer opinion. The Chacham and Rambam, the Chacham say, no mafnei shehein mitzupin. The Gemara debates exactly how this is to be understood, but the simple reading is mafnei shehein mitzupin because they are plated, they're not solid. So since they are only plated, that is why they don't have to undergo the Tahara process, because they are, it's not really considered as though the outside was really wood, but it does not have to go, even though it looks like it's copper or gold, but since it's only plated, and therefore it does not have to go undergo a Tahara process, we can consider as though it is planted to the ground. That is the Siyum Mishnah and the Siyum of Seder Moed. How do I say the Moed? How do I say the Moed? The Daka Halam. How do I say the Moed? How do I say the Moed? The Daka Halam. How do I say the Moed? How do I say the Moed? The Daka Halam. Well, it's Nashi Minach say the Moed, the Los is Nashi Minan, love all Mahadain, or the love the all Mahadasai. Harv Nod and Elainus did rate Taurus of the Fios, Amphel Base Israel, the near Kulon, Manapim, and Soena, and Soe, Amphel Base Israel, one of your nation, Shemach, Alon Base, or Sam, Shmam, Everett, Meaning, it's Osaka, Yalom Healy. Healy be summoned from Catholic Man, my voice, Nola, Eshka, Delphi, one key sunny. Ruch Atar and Ela, then the Catholic, Amen, 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 so God. One of the Nachal, Ena, the Senu, Shasanto, Ena, Yoshe, Medrash, Yoshe, Coronos, Shan Mashkim, the Hamashkim, all Mashkim, the Besar, the Hamashkim, the Brahman Taylor, all male, the Hamamim, all male come Sahar, the Hamamil come Sahar. Other rods of the Hamratz, honor of the Russian time of Bob, the Hamratz of their Shahas, Shinema, the Ato of the Hamsar, their Shahas, Ashit, and Miro, the Yachatsu, Mani, After. You're to the Nafar will high Shemishes and Ten Science said, Why? Kaftas will ask them to Sudan, Spawn, Achel, and Simon. Wilmo, Lame, Lishman, Lassos, kind of scolded by some of the Sarah Yava. It was close called to Noiva, Tamideha, Common, and his Gorba said, Noy, Taman, Lee, Zari, Shilo, Samush, Hator, and P, and Pizari, Zari, and Olam. He kindly, the Salachot, and Achat, Sach, Shabbat, Tishmas, and Kerala, Kitsosa, Estish, Sichaseha. Ki biyiru yimecham yasifu l'chosh n'chayim orach yom as b'yamina b'smel chosh v'kavod Adonai oz l'amo yitein Adonai barech v'samot v'shalom.
Now, Mitzvah, Shemei Rabbah, Rabbah the Rav, to the Vida of the Buras, to the South of the Hayam, the Hayala, Sakwa, Ahlu Hayalma, to the Nekat of the Shalai, to Halhekala, the the Merkapel Khanam, the Rav, may our own, Sabah Khanam, the Shmai Yasra, Yamle, the Kuchavari, of the Mafu Sabi Kore, Yartzeit, the Khanam, Shikay, I only make all the kind of Israel, by the love is one Kore, and you are made. Rav Mokora, one may, oh my God. I used to have a Rabbi, I'll come in the Rabbi, Rav used to have these parties when it's not saying it's not, it's not, we could be sharp. We were not Passavi, she was not Passat, and we run the Omar to Amen. I used to have a Rabbi, I'll come in the Rabbi, somebody will come out, the house can be around. So, yes, all day, you have a Sabi, Asar. Ja, hele hoge van Slamara, dat ging de gisteren, dat gaan de liefdes al die gek. We gaan al hoe de Schmeier die Araben, nee. Nee, Slamara met Schmeier, we gaan het alleen. Van Israël, nee. Als zij zo maar maar we gaan ze zo alleen. Van Israël, nee. All of us who completed Seder Moed,
all the participants here. I want to thank my student, Static, Dr. Levinson, Rebecca, already been thanked, but they can't be thanked enough. We thank the entire shul for really being such a source of encouragement for myself and the entire family throughout this past year. I'd like also to thank Penny, my son Simcha, and Ari for their technical assistance this evening. As well, I'd like to thank all those who have learned on a steady basis Mishnayos Chagiga. I know so many of you learned on your own, but our Mishnayos Chagiga year had a small but regular participation of Stuart Verstendig, Heshi Engelsberg, came somewhat disguised every week, but it take us too long to figure it out. Dr. Stephen Jacobs, Heshi Godeman, who's in Israel now, and David England. I hope I didn't leave anybody out. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of so many people. I will not name them, but friends from that we haven't seen in a while, and some who have traveled even far to be here. It's very, very meaningful to all of us. I need to acknowledge my aunt, Sylvia Schonfeld, Dr. Schonfeld's wife, whose Yartzeit was only 10 days ago. Most of the brothers, two brothers were tied to the hip, and even in death, they didn't part. My cousin Monica and Dr. Moshe Grayjower, and my sisters Tammy and Georgie here, and Saul, that are here sharing this evening with us. I said I wasn't going to speak, and I'm just really using this as a means of introduction to my son, Akiva. Yartzeit, of course, is on Hanukkah. Today is Hanukkah, the third night of Hanukkah. The Gemara in Shabbos asks, how do we know that we're commanded to make a bracha sherki b'shana b'spasul tzivanu adak ner shel Hanukkah? Heichen tzivanu. Where were we commanded? Have to wait until the Torah was given. Fabian, this is the Gemara of Fabian says, smile. Don't deviate from anything that you'll be told by the rabbis to follow. By the Chazal, don't deviate from that. Pasuk in Parshas Schonfeld. That's Rav Avia's source. We have to do the Chum tell us. That includes the mitzvah of Hanukkah. Rav Nachman says from a different pasuk, listen to your father, whatever he says, and to your elders, to your grandparents before you, and listen to them. To the shul, my father was a source of Losasser. My father's word was the law, was the halacha, ruled over all these years. And the shul was so, throughout the almost 70 years of the shul's existence, the balabatim of the shul was so totally devoted to every word that he uttered. It was really, on their part, it was they just did not deviate from any part of whatever my father had to say. And to our family, it's ask your father, and he will tell you. And our family, of course, lived by the word of my father, the spirit of my father, the direction of my father. And of course, we don't forget my mother, at this time. That it was, they just kept us as near about before we were after 7-year-old children. They kept us under their wing, and whatever they said went by us as well. Our father was and remains a source of inspiration to our entire family to this very moment. The same thing has been to the grandchildren as well. He was so beloved to each and every one of the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and even great-great-grandchildren. Representing tonight the family, especially the grandchildren, is our son Akiva, who was very beloved, of course, as a son, but very beloved to my father. And I'm very glad and touched that Akiva has agreed to say a few words on behalf of the family this evening. Bereshus Avimori, Imi Mayrasi, Bereshus Kol HaKohol HaKadosh Hazeh. You know, my father asked me if I would say a few words, and I started to give it some thought. It was kind of a tough struggle. When I spoke at the Shloshim gathering that my family had on Zoom 11 months ago, it was a little bit easier for me to kind of formulate my thoughts because I knew I was talking to my family, to my siblings, to my aunts, to my uncles, to my cousins, and I was able to talk about stories that were deeply personal to me, deeply personal to our family, many of which I can't repeat, I just won't be able to. So I kind of had this struggle in my mind. I'm talking to Abba Zaidi, my grandfather's other family, young Israel, as well as my own family. What exactly is the appropriate thing to say? And I think that giving a little bit of insight into my grandfather from the eyes of a grandson that maybe not everybody here had the opportunity to see, even though we all witnessed my grandfather's greatness, the greatness as a Rav, his greatness as a human being, his greatness as a patriarch of the family, maybe giving you that insight into that, you know, is probably the best way to speak about him tonight, not just through the lens of Rabbi Schonfeld, but to see the lens of Abba Zaidi, of Grandpa, of Zaidi Jr., of Zaidi. You know, I think that so many people have, you know, memories of their grandparents from when they grow up that are amazing memories, you know, and us, like everybody else, we have memories of, you know, sitting in the floor of my grandparents' bedroom watching the Mets lose and the Yankees win, and, you know, swimming with him in Luann bungalows, and those are definitely special memories to us. But we as the Schonfelds, particularly the Schonfelds in Queens, but of course our entire family from Israel, Switzerland, had this clip of having those special memories with the grandfather, but in addition, watching the greatness. My earliest memory that I can remember of my grandfather in the shul was, we were living in Staten Island, and Ari and I came for Shabbos, the grandma and Abba Zaidi, and I think the carpet in the shul was still yellow back then. And I just remember standing by the side of the stage, which, you know, now Baruch Hashem, my kids are able to do, to watch my father, but standing at the side of the stage watching my grandfather speak, and just being awed by, oh my gosh, that's Abba Zaidi, I can't believe it. He's, you know, he's in front of this crowd of hundreds of people speaking like this every Shabbos. And I just remember being completely awed by his presence, and it was a new, eye-opening experience for me as a grandchild who just knew him as Abba Zaidi, and then seeing the effect that he has on just a weekly, of course, you know, daily basis on the people around him. And just, you know, living in Queens and being able to come to my grandparents for a Suda on Shabbos, to watch my grandfather say Kiddush, to me, and I don't know if he did this every single time, but whenever I picture my grandfather making Kiddush, it was always with his eyes closed. And to me, it's the great passion that he had for Yiddishkeit, from everything, from singing his mirrors at the table, from making Kiddush on Shabbos, to his discussions about Eretz Yisrael, to his discussions about the shul, about the people in the shul, about every aspect of his life. I remember Ari and I, until Mr. Oweda took over the job, Ari and I used to put up their sukkah every year. But the one job my grandfather made sure, and even as he got older, he made sure he had to do something to take part in putting up the sukkahs. He used to climb onto the stool that grandma had, that I think might be in Sari's house now. And he would make sure to put up the lights. He would put on his King Gold hat, and he would hang up the lights for a sukkah because he wanted to make sure that he had a part
in the mitzvah of building the sukkah. And everything that he did to us was just, we were always awed by Abba Zaidi. And the lessons that we took from life, of everything that he did, from making Kiddush with his eyes closed and putting up the lights in the sukkah. These are things that I'm sure everybody in this room and everybody who's ever walked into the Young Israel has had the opportunity to learn from the actions of Abba Zaidi, of Rabbi Schonfeld, of my grandfather. You know, the difference is we got to see it with his jacket off and his hat on the table. You know, for me personally, I learned Hilchos Tefillin with my grandfather before I was bar mitzvah. And those are memories that were special to me. And when it came time for my son's bar mitzvah just a few months ago, I thought, because it was so special to me to learn with my grandfather, that my son should do the same. And Baruch Hashem had the opportunity to learn with my father the halachas of tefillin, and to him it was special. And practicing that first time, putting on tefillin with his grandfather. And I remember him telling me that when he showed me how to wrap my tefillin, so everybody wraps their tefillin a little bit differently. We wrap them with the two sides, both sides of the bottom we wrap. And I remember him telling me, this is how we wrap our tefillin. It looks like tanks, he said. And I kept thinking, and I thought to myself, then everything always has to come back to Israel. It's about the Israeli army. He's talking to me about tanks. And it's funny because a few months ago, somebody in our family posted, we have a grandchildren family chat. Somebody posted a video of my grandparents' 70th birthday party at my Aunt Tammy's house. And my grandfather spoke, and he's saying how special it was that everybody came. And after a few minutes of saying how special the family is, he dove right into talking about Israel and the PLO. And everybody started laughing. Oh, Grandpa, how come you have to talk about Israel every single time? But it was his passion for Eretz Yisrael, it was his passion for Yiddishkeit that always bled through in everything that he did. And he's one of the few people that kind of spanned Yiddishkeit from Hasidus to Litvish to the YU world. He's really a unique individual, and being able to hear stories from him about personally meeting the Rogatchover and remembering the Divrei Torah that the Rogatchover said to him and doing Shemira after the Rogatchover was Nifter. I mean, these are amazing lessons and amazing stories that we as grandchildren, I'm sure many of you as Balabatim, heard from him and taught us lessons throughout our lives. And I know as a grandchild watching Abba Zaidi, watching Rabbi Schonfeld in his shul, that was his great dedication to every single person in this room, whether you know it or not, and every single person that ever walked through the doors of the Young Israel. And really every single person in Kew Garden Hills really owes so much to my grandfather. This past week I sponsored the Kiddush and the Shalshudis in shul for my grandfather's Yartzeit, and the rabbi spoke for two minutes before the end of Shalshudis, and he knew my grandfather. He used to own a day camp in Queens, and he had been shol eitzah by my grandfather when he first opened the camp, asking permission what to do. And one of the things he said was, there are thousands of people in Kew Garden Hills today who don't realize how much they owe to Rabbi Schonfeld. And it certainly rings true today. It certainly rings true for many, many years. And the Kew Garden Hills community is what it is today, and no doubt thanks to my grandfather, whether it was giving leadership to other Rabbanim or sending his own Balabatim to help start other shuls, which is a big belief of his. I always pictured in my mind that when it was time for Abba Zaidi to go to the Olam HaEmes, the entire Kew Garden Hills would show up to his Levaya, and everybody would come, and it would be packed inside, it would be packed outside. And unfortunately, the Baruch Shalom had other plans, and he took Abba Zaidi from us at a time where the world was not really gathering, and the world couldn't come out to pay their respects. But the truth is, for my grandfather, it was his passion for the shul that was most important to him, not the fanfare, not the cover that he so much deserved and that he got throughout his life. It was inside of him. It was not something that was outward that he wanted to show up. It was because he loved each and every person. He loved, of course, his family, and he loved each and every person that walked through the shul. He lived for them. and not having a send-off of having the entire Kew Garden Hills, I think probably is the way that would have made the most sense to him. It's not about the fanfare, it's not about everybody coming, it's just about everybody growing in Yiddishkeit and growing as people, and that's all he ever really wanted, never about him. And I had the opportunity to watch, which I'm sure many of you have never seen, the opportunity to watch his care for the Baal Batim, things that maybe you don't realize you just took as, oh, this is Rabbi Schonfeld being Rabbi Schonfeld. But understanding what the shul meant to him and what every single person in the shul meant to him. And I think because of that today, I'm a tough Baal Bas. Every time I look at my own Rav, I'm like, why doesn't he do this like Abzedi did? Or why doesn't he do that like Abzedi did? And just watching him every Motzei Shabbos sit with the membership phone book and call people who weren't there, or on Arab Shabbos, call the Almanas and call, anybody who's alone for Shabbos to ask them how they're doing. I remember towards the end where my grandfather could barely move, he could barely stand, he could barely walk, he could barely move his head, he could barely lift his arms. And he came to shul and he was sitting down, hunched over in his seat, and people came by to say good Shabbos. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody walked by and said good Shabbos, Rabbi Schonfeld. And my grandfather looked up and he said, oh, how's your mother? He knew what was going on in everybody's life. And he cared deeply about everybody. And even when his own matzah was so bad, it was still, his thoughts were still always with the people of the young Israel. I remember he used to send letters to kids in camp. I don't know too many, if any, rabbis that do that. And I'm sure many of your children can testify to that they received a letter from Rabbi Schonfeld. And when I was learning in Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, he came to Eretz Yisrael and I was so excited to see him. I hadn't seen him in months. And he calls me up and he says, Akiva, I have a list of all the boys from the young Israel who are here. Please call them up and let's get together and have a meal together. The young Israel was always the young Israel, the chinuch of their children and the shalom of their bias was always at the fore of his mind. And I just want to, I know that everybody here owes a debt of Akar Satov to my grandfather. There's no question in my mind about that. But I think we as a Schonfeld family also owe a debt of Akar Satov to you, to the people of the young Israel. There are people that come to mind that really were so instrumental in just the basic care of my grandfather towards the end. When he came to shul, whether it's Meisher Lansky or Danny Maurer or Steve Jacobs, Dr. Levinson, and the list goes on and on. And it's not always easy for the grandchildren to be there, live in different places, not around. And to see the people of the young Israel really step in and take such good care of my grandfather, we owe you a debt of Hakar Satov that we really could never repay. And I would be remiss if I would finish off a speech about my grandfather without mentioning the Sfas Emes. We say in Haneres Halalu, after we finish lighting the menorah, Haneres Halalu Kodesh Heim. The Sfas Emes says that why do we say Kodesh Heim? What's so holy specifically about the Neros? And he explains that the Neros are a very unique mitzvah, and that they are the only mitzvah from the Beis HaMikdash that we practice exactly the way it was today. All the other mitzvahs, there may be remembrances for them for different things, but this lighting the menorah, which is exactly what we did in the Beis HaMikdash, is something that we still do today. We light the menorah every year, and it gives us a certain nechama in the galus to know that there's something that we still keep alive from the Beis HaMikdash that will Amir Hashem carry us to the Geula. And I think it's only appropriate that if we think about the legacy of my grandfather and what he meant to everybody here, what he meant to my family. Till this day, still when people ask me my name and I say it's Akiva Schonfeld, I always wait for that. Are you related to Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld? And it's a name that we wear with pride, but even more than that, I think that the effect that my grandfather had on all of us, on all of our lives, not just from our names, the grandchildren who don't share the Schonfeld name, and the children of my grandfather, who are the young Israel of Kew Garden Hills, he affected all of our lives deeply and in turn, that will pass on to our children for generations. And that's the nechama that I take out of the Sfas Emes's words, is realizing those things that live on forever. The haneres halalu kodesh shem, these haneres which are holy, which remind us of the Beis Hamikdash and give us a small nechama in this geula, knowing that despite not being able to see Abba Zaidi or to talk to Abba Zaidi or to get guidance from Abba Zaidi, but knowing that his neros, which are his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, his great-great-grandchildren, the people of the Young Israel Kindergarten Hills throughout the 70 years that he was involved in the shul, their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and so forth, that his ner lives within them. And that gives us a little nechama to know that no matter what, for generations to come, the Rosham, the spirit of Rabbi Schonfeld of Abba Zaidi will always live on. May he be a Melitz Yosher for all of us.
As I mentioned before, we'll have a video clip now of Rabbi Fabian Schonfeld. 10 years ago, we'll remember him as he was, his humor, everything about him, the way he spoke, and his whole life is mentioned in this video clip.
Second. Give me a minute. Wait. Here. Anyone here on Zoom? Make sure you can see it.
To tell a story of a man who came to a dinner, and the speaker got up to speak. 5 minutes past, 10, 15, 20, half an hour, 45 minutes, and the man gets up and walks out. So the speaker said, "Are you walking out of my speech?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Why?" "I'm going to take a haircut." He said, "Now you have to take a haircut?" He said, "I didn't need one when I came in," he said. I'm telling you this because, you know, we have Lag Bomo coming up when you take a haircut. And this year it's even better because it's Sunday, you take a haircut on Friday. So there's a lot of time between now and Friday. In all seriousness, I'm not quite sure how to address you. Friends, family, mishpacha, congregational members, community friends, but as Kol Yisrael Chaverim, everyone. It's precious and important to us. I want to take this opportunity to thank the committee. Devin Jeff Weintraub, who chaired it, Morty and Susan Goldstein, who have made many of the arrangements, including the journal, Susan Rosenfeld and Bob, the ever-present, ever-hardworking secretary, Darren Gold Edelstein of the Young Merits, David Englander, who's busy in every part of the shul, Joseph Poplak, a former president, now a vice president of the National Council, and the indefatigable Danny Mora, president of the shul, and so many others. I have a lot of notes here, but as I'm standing, each one gets discarded. So my wife says to me, I looked at the notes, she said, don't speak from the notes, speak from your heart. And that is what I want to do for a few minutes. I want to share with you one or two reflections. In the beginning, I'd like to thank the Orthodox Union, an organization that is vital to the Jewish life of the community, for this wonderful presentation that was made by Simcha Katz and by my dear friend for many years, Julius Berman and Harvey Blitz. We have one thing in common, which is important to us all. We are all Talmidim of the Rav, including the immediate past president, Steve Savitsky. That's very important to me. I can only thank you for the symbolism of the presentation. And I'm sure that the Rav would have been pleased that it was made tonight. So I want to tell you a little story that happened to me with the Rav Zatzal. I came here from England, where I had studied under Rabbi Abramsky and Rabbi Lapian. We learned, in the evening I went to college, during the day we went to the yeshiva, not to the delight of the Rosh Yeshiva, we managed to hide it from him, but we did. So I come to America, and my father said to me, be sure that you get into the Shir of Soloveitchik. I said, yeah, I will try. He says, never mind try, you've got to do it. I never met him, said my father, but I read some of his articles, some of his shiurim. This is where you have to go. All right, to Dr. Belkin, and I was placed in the Shir of David Lifshitz Zatzal and the Rav. We're learning a very difficult Gemara, Masechtas Nidin. I had no idea what was flying. No idea what was going on in the Shir. I wasn't used to this kind of a Shir. In the afternoon after the Shir, the Rav says to me, come and see me in my apartment. I want to get to know you better. All right, I come into his apartment, and he's sitting in his mother's apartment, also remember, and he was reading the Allgemeine Journal, the Tagmahal Journal, whatever, and talking to me while he was reading. I said, Eigewalt, what kind of interview is this going to be? And he reads and says to me, I want to get to know you a little better. Who are you? Your mishpacha. And he heard that I was the son-in-law of the late Rabbi Jacobowitz from Berlin. He said, oh, mean you're a Yaki? I said, not necessarily, just married into a Yaki family. And you have any letters of recommendation? I took the letter which Rabbi Abramsky had given me to give to Rabbi David Lifshitz. And sitting and reading, and he's smiling. He said, for a shidduch, it's a good letter. A lerner kennt euch, is it? Since those days, the Rav has become part of our life. So I'm grateful to the Orthodox Union that the presentation was made by those who had a deep influence upon, and influenced by Rav Soloveitchik Zatzal. Well, what is the function of the rabbinate? It's not going to be a long lecture, don't worry. How did I look upon this? As you saw from the video which my brother made and appeared in, I can only say my brother, Ki Anoshim Achim Anachno, I was one that was the word Anoshim doing there, the apostle. Achim Anachno, we are brothers. What is Anoshim Achim? Because with a Zaina Buddha, Menschlich, part of the human race, not you're related to me because we're the same parents. We are noshim together, men together. I owe my brother a great deal, both in refuas nefesh and refuas guf. But you got some idea of our childhood in Vienna. And when I came here to the United States, I started learning yeshiva. I did not go to the college part of Yeshiva University. I already had graduated from the University of London. So I was purely yeshiva. I was interviewed by Dr. Belkin, Zechron Levrocha, and he said, all right, we'll place you in the shir of David Lifshitz, maybe Rav Soloveitchik. And I'm sitting there. And Dr. Belkin, those who knew him, who remember him, yes, what else? I said, we haven't discussed tuition. He said, tuition? We don't charge tuition for the Torah and the yeshiva. We charge for the college, which maybe makes up for the Hebrew as well. But no, so I went officially for 3 years to the yeshiva of Yitzchak Elchanan without paying a single penny tuition. Because this is the philosophy of the yeshiva. So I was very delighted to get this award from the Orthodox Union by those wonderful gentlemen who did me the honor of giving it to me. What really is the function of a love? You heard many things here tonight, all of them exaggerated. You know, years ago you paid for a gallon of gas 17 cents. Today it's $5. The same applies to shvachim. Today shvachim are inflated and those representing. I say to my children, Sheli v'shelachem shelah belongs to the woman sitting to my left. And this is why I'm grateful to the Rabbi Shalom. And whatever success we may have had is because we are together. Like Rachel supported Rabbi Akiva, that support was given to me and to the congregation. The only thing I've been minded doubtful, the gift that I got tonight, and how happy she's going to be. Another book in the house? Where am I going to put it? Now you got me, get a gift, 5 books in the house? What are you going to do with them? I said, no, I'm taking them to shul. And it reminds me, you may remember, we had a secretary in those years. Her name was Dottie Kale. Some of you may remember her. And she loved buying dresses. And she had a husband who, like Danny Murrah, worked for the police department, except Danny makes the life of cops miserable in this position in the commissioner's office. And Lenny Kale was a sergeant. And he didn't like the idea of buying dresses all the time. So she'd bring a dress to the office to say, Rabbi, I'm going to put it in your closet. And I said, in my closet? Yeah, speak to Lottie, she'll understand. And then I would come home slowly, bring the dress, and Lenny would say, where does this come from? Oh, from the Rabbi's house. You know? This is the truth. Unfortunately, Dottie Kate is not well these days. But this is, I am the Havdil, the slaughter in my house. Another book, another magazine, you don't read them anyway. So I need volunteers to keep the books in your house. But in all seriousness, the books are the lifeline of my life. Books, Svarim, and this edition of Sfas Emes is very, very important. It's the original edition, and my whole spiritual life has been based basically upon 4 pillars. One, my father's Zechron Levrocha, the people here will remember him. Samuel Apata certainly will. Samuel Apata and I, unless I'm mistaken, the Shiore Anshe Knesset Agdola, when we started the shul with 11 families. And my father insisted, studying, learning, writing. He was very proud of my brother and myself. Ich habe ein Sinn a doctor and ein Sinn a Rav. He used to say, the Rav can ich kein medicine, the doctor versteht er krank, he said. But he was very proud of us, my father, the second, of course, is, not in that order, is Rav Soloveitchik Zatzal. I cannot imagine what life would have been like for me in the rabbinate without the Rav and his influence, and through his influence upon you as well. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss him. Then, of course, Schonfeld Hirsch, our friend and colleague in the neighborhood, Rabbi Elbaum, called me to wish Mazel Tov. He couldn't be here because he's leaving this afternoon to go to Germany and Hungary and Austria to visit the Kivrei Tzadikim. And he's going to Frankfurt, and I said to him, please bring me back a picture of Rabbi Schonfeld Hirsch's Matzeva. He says, of course, what kind of question? Rabbi Schonfeld Hirsch, I'm not giving you a lecture about him now, but you heard me speak about him often enough. That was the Torah of the Eretz, the Torah of Mother. That is upon which I base my life. And then, of course, the Sfas Emes. Not enough is spent on understanding who the Sfas Emes was and who Bichlal Gerech Hasidim are. So these are the pillars by which I base my spiritual life. My father, Rabbi Schonfeld Hirsch, Sfas Emes, and when I first came to this country, the Young Israel movement, I fell in love with it. I saw them on the campuses. I saw them building kosher kitchens at the various universities. Things have changed a little bit. But these were the principles upon which I base my spiritual life. And for this I'm grateful to Hashem. And this is how I try to be in the Rabbanus. And finally, the Chesed. Chesed is not something that you're naturally born with. You have to practice it. The Rav would tell us about his grandfather, Reb Chaim, who said when he will pass on his Matzeve, it should say simply one thing. Reb Chaim, Reb Yosef Dov HaLevi, Ish HaChesed. And he would say, very often the Rav would quote it. He said, Ich bin by natur, I'm not about chesed, I'm not a good person. Ich habe always gelernt to be about chesed. You can teach it, and you can learn it, and you can adopt it. So these are the things that I wanted to tell you. And finally, whatever retirement may mean, I'm not quite sure what that's meant by this. It's a good English word. We had a mishpacha in Lodge, and Mr. Fisher remembers the entire family coming from Lodge. The Eisner family, Avraham Eisner. Avraham Eisner was a very wealthy man, very rich man. At the age of 60, he decided he made enough money. I don't need any more. He's going to retire. He went to the Imre Emes, this was Emes' son, the Rabbi. He said, Rabbi, I'm going to stop working. I'm going to retire. He says, what are you going to do? You retire. What are you going to do? Ich will sitzen und lernen, I learn. Spend my time learning. So the Rabbi says to him, Avram, du weißt, ich habe fight Ladygayers. You know, I don't like loafers that loaf around, do nothing. Go back to work, he said. So people have ideas. I mean, my colleagues here are retired. Rabbi Slodowski, our dear Mechoten, Rabbi Rosenzweig, they know how to retire. So I don't know what it means, but I knew one thing. It's the time has come of Shirul ad Hashem Shir Chadash. a new approach, new ideas, new vistas. And these are being entrusted into the hands of our dear son and brother-in-law, Rabbi Yoel and Perry. It's interesting. David HaMelech wanted to build a Beis HaMikdash. It's mentioned in 3 places in Tanakh. In Shmuel Beis, and it's mentioned in Divrei Yamim, and mentioned in Malachim. What did Hashem say to David? Rak lo ato tivne bais. You will not build a house. Ki im bincha yotzeh mechalotzecha, the son that comes from your loins. And I'm wondering, looking at the pasuk, if Hashem did not want David HaMelech to put the final touch on the Beis HaMikdash, why did he say to him, Rak ata, only this, not you? Why not you? I think what it means is, Rak ata, if it's only you that wants to build, you want to do it all by yourself, Lo tivna, you can't do this. If you hand over to somebody that's worthy, different story. Rak ata, just by yourself you can't do this. So I'm handing over some of my, what shall I say, activities. Always been active in those a long time before that. And we know that under his guidance, his leadership, that he will evoke in you the understanding, the cooperation, what is needed to make Young Israel Kudos Hills be what it is. And a final word of thanks to the administration. From the days of Mary Annette Saperstein, Aleichem Shalom, whose children are with us here tonight, Diane and her husband Jerry, and Sandy and Zev, and Dr. Louis Saperstein and his wife are here tonight. Because whatever we are, we owe to that family. And the Women's League, Mary was the first president. From that time until the present time, headed by 2 ladies who worked so hard, Rebecca Wittert and Esther Steinemann. They will continue to prosper. I know the time has come when there'll be changes in the shul, in the administration. One day, Danny will get tired finally. And I ask all of you to give them your cooperation, your understanding, to make Young Israel, Kudos Hills, what it has been made to be and what it is. And thank you, Debbie and Jeffrey. And thank you for Susan, who is the engine that drives the office. And Debbie has now gone back to her first love and her first profession, but worked for many years for us. Thank you for that too. I cannot conclude without starting with a joke. Not a joke, but that's the true story. Jeffrey, Debbie's husband, is a dentist. The other day, tells her that he works in Williamsburg, in a clinic. And one of the patients from Williamsburg comes, he hears him speak about enamel. Enamel, I don't want an animal in my mouth. I don't want any of this. No animal. So there's fun in that too. So again, thanks. And now the effort that went into this dinner tonight. May we be zocher to be mikar kabel, b'shir tzedkenu. Amen.